Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for tonight's broadcast on St. Lair 13, as we are preparing to get underway for Stint 10 out of 12 here for TORA's 24 Hours of Nurburgring Enduro. We have seen that gradually the performance... We have seen that gradually the performance has stabilized. It does look like, despite losing huge chunks of time earlier in the event, Fun Games is still leading of all of the entrants in the top category, the GT3 category. In the bottom category, though, it looks like it is Roken GTR in the Hyundai Elantra that is still holding on to a lead there. So, despite instance, chaos, and just a lack of pace, our top drivers, our top teams, the people who are at the top at the end of Stints 1 and 2, are still the ones at the top as we are preparing to get underway for Stint 10. The real interesting thing is that we do still have an HYR entry, as HYR Stokey Joe's entry, running around in second right now. So the HYR team is not out of it by any means, but their other entrant has slipped down to about 5th in the order. The ZR entry, which is going to be driven by ZR Amaryllis, is going to be starting in 3rd. So we're going to have 3 different manufacturers starting in the top 3 positions. In the top category, in the bottom category is still the Hyundai Elantra being run down by 3 to 4 Toyota Supras, and then the BMW M4s have just kind of been completely irrelevant the entire time throughout this lower category event today. As we load onto the circuit proper here. Alright, and we are off and underway here. It will be Fun Games at the head of the field in that pink BMW. The only other BMW still running is maybe Racing, who, due to that disconnect that they had earlier after that gigantic accident and the damaged engine stalling out, is running back there in 10th, last of our drivers in the top category right now. We're going to be focusing on ZR Amaryllis as we come to the green flag. Now that we are back in the daytime, visibility should not be an issue, and I imagine we should be able to get underway with minimal issues right away here. I mean, granted, we had to do 4 different attempts at running the lobby and still had a big accident in Stint 2, and that one was also in the daytime. But generally speaking, with the higher amount of visibility, we should be able to see everyone get immediately on top of it. Looks like Razor is already slipping back into the clutches of Corsi, so a fight going on for 4th and 5th position here. But amongst the top 3, they're staying not quite nose to tail. They are side by side. That is Les Destructor, who is in that pink Mercedes trying to go the long way around and ends up falling back to 6th. Now he's trying to keep EDO and behind him. Merc on Merc action here. These 2 Mercedes, feels like it's been a tale of 2 different events. One of them has just constantly been involved in accidents, constantly been unable to maintain any sense of pace, and the other one has had some fantastic pace, but just hasn't been able to steadily bring it home. One would be happy with the 6th place results. One is frustrated at the constantly finishing around that 5th or 6th place position. Still at the front of the field, Fun Games is keeping HYR Stokey Joe and ZR Amaryllis behind. Fun Games is a little bit wide there. It's going to bring Stokey Joe just a little bit closer. And VER Razor has dropped 2 positions already. So again, this VER Dodge entry seems to be at the center of issues every single time they get underway here at the start of these stints. Coming up to the big hill, the jump. I'm too tired to remember the names of anything right now. I apologize. But it looks like the entire field's going to get through without any big accidents this time. Farther back, guess who? It's going to be Roken GTR pulling away without issue. EMC Steve is running second right now, trying to keep Dom, who was bored, in third place behind right now. Have we already... Has Games already... Yeah, Games has already slid off and lost the lead to Stokey Joe. And now it is ZR Amaryllis who is putting the BMW under pressure. So that HYR team with Stokey Joe in the seat right now is really punching well. We don't yet know how far behind Stokey Joe. And so we don't know how far behind Stokey Joe still is compared to Fun Games. We did just complete 3 stints, and I was not able to keep up with that, and I do apologize. But it does seem like at least the HYR team is performing as well as they possibly can considering their circumstances. Another bit of a twitch and a slide there by Fun Games, so it does not seem like Fun Games' handling woes have gone away with the night. It seems like they are still here in the daytime, as he is keeping ZR Amaryllis tucked up behind, and then just behind them is Corsi and Les Destructor, as they continue to run through the funnel here. Razor has fell even farther back now. He has now dropped to 9th position in the grid. Nose to tail for 2nd and 3rd position. Amaryllis trying to figure out a way to get up there, get alongside Fun Games. We've seen him, and we've seen his teammates make big dive bombs under braking here. Does he try it this time? Oh, he gets close under braking, puts that bumper right to the rear diffuser of that BMW. Can't make it stick. And now Corsi and Les Destructor are going at it. And it looks like Les Destructor is going to try and go the long way around the outside. Can he complete the overtake here? No, Corsi is not backing out of it. They're side by side up at the front, and Corsi's into the wall. Corsi is sliding. Les Destructor is sliding. They both were far enough away that they aren't going to lose too much time, and Fun Games actually used the draft to get back by Stokey Joe. So while the handling is not there for the car, the speed is enough to give them the advantage over the Dodge Vipers, and Fun Games goes back to the lead. And Les Destructor now falls back to 7th there. Nearly 3 wide. Destructor is deep into the dirt there. Goes deep. He's going to keep that KTM squeezed on the outside. So now, is running in 5th. The highest we've seen that entry for many, many stints here. And that's the KTM of Edo, who was trapped on the outside and just could not get going. And Maybe Racing has already completely lost touch with the drivers ahead. Meanwhile, back at the head of the field, it's still HYR Stokey Joe hanging out behind. Fun Games trying to figure out a way to catch him and then get by him. Corsi might be running in 4th, but he does not seem to be super active right now. And interesting enough, right now, Fun Games is actually pulling away on Stokey Joe just a little bit. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Fun Games just needed to get a few minutes of running in to kind of get synced back up with how to run this car, because now the performance is starting to come back. Stokey Joe off into the dirt there. Amarillo is trying to close the gap back down, trying to get back in there. First, second, third, all just did not have a good time in those corners. But Corsi does not seem to have the speed to really be able to rush up there and capitalize either. Oh! Fun Games licked to the dirt just a little bit there, and all of a sudden it brings H-Wire Stokey Joe back into his draft range. So the momentum continues to swing back and forth at the head of the field. We've not even completed an entire lap, and we've already seen 2 changes at the front of the field. We might be preparing for a third one. Fun Games trying to swerve on the back straightaway, trying to break the draft to that Dodge Viper behind. He knows that the Viper desperately needs the draft in order to keep up in a straight. But Stokey Joe is close enough. He has the draft. I don't think he's going to be able to make a move at the end of the straight, but he'll be close enough that he can go ahead and try and use the draft again on the start-finish straight and do something going into the turn 1 and turn 2 switchbacks. Here it is. If Stokey Joe has a move in him, this would be the ideal time to make it. A little bit farther back, you can see that Les Destructor and are going at it. Stokey looks to take a little bit more cautious line through here, trying to give himself a good exit so he can still be tucked up behind that number 69. 69 didn't have a great time putting the power down. Stokey Joe looked to the inside, but did not have the sheer power to hold it to the inside as they came down to turn 3 there. Meanwhile, in the bottom category, Rokin has already opened up a gigantic gap over Dom Is Bored and EMC Steve. So it does seem like the Hyundai Elantra, at least in this category, is borderline unstoppable. There's only really been one stint we've seen where they've not been easily a top 2 car. It would take a tremendous accident stalling the car out or a disconnect to seriously put them at risk of losing, at least against their B-lobby competition. But now, first, second, and third, all on top of each other, same way they were 1 lap ago. So he closes up a little bit under braking that time. But the Viper seems to be a little bit slidier now. At least that H-Wire Viper seems to be a little bit slidier now in the daytime compared to the night, as they enter the Nordschleife once again. 4th place Corsi is still hanging out in the wings. Amaryllis has fallen back just a little bit. Very small dust cloud kicked up by Fun Games there. And he's wide again. He is wide again. But the areas that Fun Games is losing time are areas where Stokey does not have the ability, not in the Dodge Viper, to get alongside and actually maintain a move. The Dodge Viper just does not have top end. It's got fantastic lap times. It's really good at managing its fuel and tires with when you have a decent setup on it. But the Dodge Viper does not have the sheer straight line speed to pull alongside unless it gets a massive, massive amount of draft to build things up. And even then, an overtake is not guaranteed. Now look to the outside on entry. He was thinking of a crossover, but again, didn't have the power coming out of the corner to make anything of it. He's got torque, but does not have a lot of power to deliver with all that torque. As they rush down into the bottom of the valley and now back uphill here. Very technical braking zone. You're on and off the brakes, trying to constantly shift the momentum of the weight in the car around so you can maximize each and every corner through here. Looks like Amaryllis has basically been caught by Corsi at this stage of the event. Just about nose to tail for first and second, just about nose to tail for third and fourth as well. ZR Amaryllis finally sees a bit of a gap open on Corsi, and then he immediately throws it away by running too wide in the following corner. You can see 5th, 6th, and 7th Destructor, Hilfiger, and Edo all on top of each other farther back there. So the top 7, all are top 8, honestly, all relatively close to each other. But actual movements do not seem to be happening very much. Amaryllis went wide there, and Corsi dropped tires in the dirt, trying to just not run over the Merc. He sees a line, goes to the inside, trying to get Argy Bargy there, forces the 334 machine wide, but now that 334 machine has the inside. You don't want to be side by side through there, and Corsi wisely backs out of it, lives to fight another day. In the process, that will bring Les Destructor a little bit closer. Looks like do went off there, and he's going to slip back behind the lone remaining Mustang in this field, the one that is being driven by Hilfiger, the HYR entry. So we're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and we'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. God, excuse me. Wow, Corsi, you honestly had that and you threw it away by blowing the chicane. Well, now it's Merc, 3 and 4. Oh gosh, Amaryllis completely hard into the wall there. I don't think there's any damage. That top 3 run he was having has now been derailed. And Les Destructor now moves up into the 3rd position, with Corsi back and forth now, and Hilfiger 5th. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. It has been chaos from about 3rd on back here. It is now Les Destructor who is 3rd, and Corsi, who is 4th, is desperately trying to keep Hilfiger in that Mustang behind. So some American car and American car action going on here. Big slide by Hilfiger is going to leave him open to attack from do-do-do-do, and do-do-do-do spins him right in front of the field, going through the mini carousel, and there's a stack up. And did Razor get any damage? He ran into the back of that BMW with speed. Doesn't look like there's any damage, but 2 more drivers who are right up near the front just turn each other, and I imagine that we will see a penalty between do-do-do-do and Hilfiger with the way that turned out. That is almost guaranteed to be some level of penalty, I would imagine, with the way that turned out. Meanwhile, at the front, Fun Games is trying to deal with Stokey Joe hanging out in his draft, and then behind them, Corsi and Les Destructor have now pulled away for the rest of the field a bit. So it is Merc on Dodge here, as BMW on Dodge at the front. With ZR Amaryllis now having recovered to 5th, and Les Destructor runs Corsi into the dirt there, a little bit of contact, and that Dodge got 2 tires in the dirt, was forced to back out earlier than he wanted to. The Merc is wide. Here comes Corsi, and Corsi's gonna have the better run out. So Les Destructor slips back to 4th. Yeah, there's no engine damage. It just seemed like slapping the outside wall took a lot of momentum out, so Corsi moves up to 3rd on track now. Meanwhile, for 1st and 2nd, looks like HYR Stokie Joe is losing touch with Fun Games. So whatever setup Fun Games has on that car, it was not very good in the nighttime, but now in the daytime circumstances, it seems to be a lot better. He is slowly pulling a gap on HYR Stokie Joe. He can't rest easy yet, but things do look like they are starting to go his way. VER Razor has somehow cycled his way up to 6 despite falling off the back of the field in the first 2 laps and being involved in several incidents. Although he does have Ito behind, so I won't imagine this will last for very long. Farther down, in the bottom category, you can see Roken has completely vanished into the distance. Dom is bored, is stabilized in second. It looks like this LMP Supra is got second in the bag, I would imagine, just off their general pace. But it seems like they just do not have an answer for that Hyundai Elantra. An interesting thing with the Elantra is that its biggest advantages are coming in the straights. It is not a massively advantageous cornering car. It's all about just having ridiculous speed in the straight line that the Supras just cannot keep up with. Gap between the top 2 is closed down again. We also expect that we're going to start seeing drivers pitting at the very end of this lap here. So for Stokie Joe, if he can't pass and get around Fun Games by the end of this lap, it may be a scenario where that setup that Fun Games has is not dealing with the tire fall off in the daytime, and he can just maintain his lead. Again, it was Fun Games Stokie Joe starting 1-2, so that is a representation of their actual distances coming into this stint, or very close to the representation. And if Stokie Joe can't get by Fun Games and start and get back to cutting the gap down, then that may be all it takes for that BMW entry to walk off. Again, reminder, we have had other drivers in that pink BMW, and they have performed very, very solidly. Yes, about no tell. I will give full credit. While Stokie Joe has been harassing Fun Games this entire time, they have been gradually pulling on everyone third on back. It is not like they are bleeding time from each other and letting Corsi or Les Destructor or Amarillas close back in. They have legitimately been pulling away from the rest of the field, and Razor off into the dirt. Razor's deep in the dirt, and so is Amarillas. Razor and Amarillas both have an exit at the exact same time. No damage to Razor's car, one of Amarillas. No damage. They're both going to get away with no damage somehow, but both Razor and Amarilla slide off at the exact same time, at the exact same part of the track. A wall that has claimed so many lives in many, many different kinds of racing. That also puts the KTM of Ito up into 5th, and briefly bumps maybe up into 8th position as well. Do has lost touch with the rest of the field now. No damage to the car, but I think he has already made a stop at the end of lap 2 there. I don't know if he got damaged in that accident and we just missed it. Razor did hit him from behind pretty hard. But if he had damage, we did not see it, and he was able to jump into the pits early enough that we couldn't really pick up on it. It legitimately looks like, in the daytime, Fun Games is not bleeding off time. Stokie Joe's going to get by Fun Games. He's going to have to get really, really aggressive here. But I don't think the Dodge Viper has what it takes to make an overtake on track, and I don't think there's going to be enough of an advantage that it may have in the pit lane to make it happen there. It may just be a matter of how long will it be until Fun Games makes a mistake, and if he makes a mistake, will it be enough to let Stokey Joe get by? We did see Stokey Joe get by Fun Games on lap 1, and then Fun Games got right back by before the first lap was even over. Top of the hill in Sector 3, and now they begin rushing downwards through the best part of the circuit. Just rapid fire right and left with nice short straightaways. Long enough to put the power down, but not long enough to really let you catch your breath. I don't think Stokey has anything for Fun Games. Fun Games has definitely come to life here in the daytime stints. Did not seem to be very comfortable with the car at night, but in the daytime stints, he has really come to life now. Neither of these drivers are really struggling keeping their car on track through here, it seems. So here's going to be the interesting thing. They're coming up onto a big back straightaway once again. Lots of draft, and we imagine that these drivers will be pitting this time as well. So can Stokey Joe use the draft to try and outrun Fun Games on the run down the pit lane? Boy, Fun Games got right into the dirt there just a bit. It's going to give Stokey Joe a fantastic run on him. And immediately Stokey Joe is going to try and go the outside. Now in a drag race, this Dodge is not going to be able to beat that BMW. They're just going to kind of hold each other up, use a side draft, and slow each other down a bit. See, they're dead even for now, and now the BMW starts pulling the nose ahead, and then the side draft inverts, and it's going to start slowing the BMW down and drag the Dodge back ahead. They're still side by side. Someone has to back out early here. Oh, and that's the second time we have seen a Dodge get squeezed into the dirt there. Being on the outside, I think a lot of these cars have just had enough of Dodges wrapping around the outside, and they're saying, if you're going on my outside under braking at the end of the big straightaway, I'm just going to squeeze you into the dirt. It's not worth it. So tempers are a little bit hotter now at this stage of the event. Horsey pits, Destructor pits. The one driver we'll really want to keep an eye on is because they had already pitted. Oh, it looks like maybe Racing is trying to go one extra lap on circuit again. And despite having completely lost touch with the rest of the field, it is enough to slot him right back into the lead once again. I'm going to be 100% honest. I feel like this strategy has not actually given maybe any significant tangible benefit. But he is really willing to commit to it and stick with it here. And after all, Fun Games maintains his advantage over Stokey Joe, but just barely. But if they catch maybe before this lap is over, that could randomize things here a bit. Meanwhile, for the bottom category, Broken has a gigantic gap over Dom is Bored, who similarly has a large gap over EMC Steve, who is fighting with Sluds. Sluds? I'm gonna call him Sluds. S-L-U-D-Z-Z. I believe that should be Sluds. But Sluds and Steve are having their own little fight here for third position right now. Supra on BMW action. It looks like the BMW will get by there. So we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we'll see our lead category firing it down through Nurburgring Nordschleife once again. We'll be back momentarily here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. As maybe Racing is your leader, but he is only leading because he is off strategy. He has not actually had the pace to fight for the lead on merit today. This is the realistic fight for the lead between Fun Games and Stokey Joe. And in the daytime, Fun Games has really come to life. Stokey has been putting a fight up, but Fun Games has a lot more pace in the daytime, and also he's being a lot more pushy and punchy. He is not willing to let that Dodge Viper come up alongside, excuse me, and try and bully him off the line. Down through the funnel once again. Oh, Fun Games got really close to sliding off circuit there. He keeps it on. So a very, very slight line difference between these two. And if you notice in some of these shots, you can see that fourth place, Corsi, is now beginning to run down on this duo. So Corsi has kind of got their feet under them and is now running down on this duo. These two are legitimately holding each other up just a bit, and it is letting Corsi close in. Oh, that's wide. That was really wide going in for Fun Games. Once again, Stokey Joe is going to have a fantastic amount of draft through here. But I don't think it will be enough for him to try and get alongside the BMW. He's able to artificially improve his lap time a bit, hanging out behind the BMW in the draft through these long straightaways, the sections where you're just on the throttle for 20, 30 seconds in a row. But does not have what it takes to actually get alongside that number 69 machine. As I said, that Corsi seems to have had an off just as he was closing in on the drivers ahead. No damage, but he has had an off, so pressure is off of our realistic top two. And this also cycles Let's Destructor into fourth on track, third realistically. Well, after the first round stops, Doo, who jumped onto an ultra strategy, cycled up into 8th ahead of VER Razor and a little bit behind ZR Amaryllis. So he is doing the opposite of what Maybe's Racing did. He ran only 2 laps before pitting. Maybe was trying to do 4 laps before pitting. So Doo is going to be paying a big tire price later. Maybe is paying his big tire price right now. But it may not matter, because if no one catches Maybe, then he may just be able to run a bunch of laps in clean air, which seems to be the main thing he wants to do in this. Still, they run nose to tail, but again, that 69 has just got enough power that he's able to outrun the Viper on even the smallest of straights. And the Viper needs such a long build-up to try and get alongside, and every time he does get alongside with the draft, like coming up onto the back straightaway here, Fun Games has no qualms with just trying to hip-check that Viper to keep him from doing anything. That's Maybe Racing farther up the road here. They will not catch him before Maybe pits by the looks of it. So once again, Stokey does have the draft on this BMW. You can visibly see him closing the gap down, but he's not going to be able to get alongside here under brake before they get to the braking zone. Well, he sure is thinking of getting alongside, but he's not going to be able to get alongside. So he'll have to hope he can do it on the start-finish straightaway. Got a relatively good exit through there, but licked the outside wall, and there you can see the sheer power of the BMW just lets him gap the Viper without issue, and it takes so long for the draft to kick in and let that Viper hit its possible top speed. Again, the Viper does have a potentially very high top speed, but you need incredibly long straightaways like the chicaneless version of Mulsanne at Le Mans, or the back straightaway here at Nurburgring Nordschleife for it to really take advantage of it. It's realistically, this is just a car focused on slower speed, not slower speed, but focused more on just maximizing cornering ability and saving tires. And in an event like this, where you're not really pushing your tires into the 50% range between stops, the biggest advantage that the Viper has kind of derails and deteriorates. EDO is making another stop already after only 4 laps, so I have to imagine that EDO had some sort of accident that we have missed, which has shunted him down to last in the grouping. It'll be a very distant last at that. Still, this prolonged stalking battle at the head of the field has been the main focus. Third place is still Les Destructor, who has maintained a small gap on Corsi. Corsi has been a little faster, but been a little bit more mistake-prone. Corsi was actually running down the top 2 for a bit, but had a spin about 60% of the way, 65, 70% of the way through the lap. And it gave third place to Les Destructor. Fifth place is Hilfiger in the Mustang. The only Mustang. We started this event with, I believe, 3 or 4 different Mustangs, and now we're just down to this one. Sixth place is ZR Amaryllis. Seventh is Maybe Racing, who is running on alternate strategy, trying to minimize the amount of time he spends flying with other drivers. It might be a good enough strategy to bring him a 7th position. And then you have this duo, Doo and VER Razor, going at it. Reminder that Doo and Hilfiger got into it with each other earlier, and Razor was caught up in the mess as well. Also right now, Doo is on more worn tires than what Razor is dealing with at the moment. And like I said, 10th place way off the rest of the field is EDO in the KTM. He can still finish this race in only 3 stops, but he'll have to really push these fuel and tires a long way if he wants to try and make that strategy work. The stalking battle continues between Fun Games and Stokey Joe. Game says that there's some fighting going on here as they go down the straightaway. BMW versus Supra in the bottom class for 3rd position on track. Actually, that's 4th position on track. No, that's 2nd on track. What? What happened to Dom is board? These two are still side by side, but it looks like the Supra will get it. What happened to Dom is board that he has fallen all the way this far back? Must have had some sort of off-track excursion or something, because he was comfortably 2nd, and now he's not even close to the podium. But this just further solidifies this car's grip, the Hyundai Elantra's grip, over the rest of the field here in this category. It has been a fantastic run by Roken, GTR, and his teammates in the 787 machine. Still nothing through here. Stokey just seems to be content to run behind Fun Games. And Fun Games has really upped his ante, upped his game, literally. So these two are maintaining their advantage. I do think they're a little bit slower than where they would be if they were both running solo. But the next fastest driver on lap times has arguably been Corsi. But Corsi has been a little bit too mistake prone, and he's now way too far out to have a chance to run down. He'll only have about an hour left before the end of this stint. I don't see Corsi having a chance to run down the top two mistake-free and then being able to pass both of them mistake-free. If Stokey Joe has not been able to get alongside Fun Games more than just the once in the first lap, and then the other time where he got shunted into the dirt, I don't see Corsi being able to get by him either. This is now turned into a fight for third here as they fire it off into the carousel. Oh, and Les Destructor just completely overshoots it. Takes way too much momentum into the carousel, goes off track, and Corsi takes third place without even a fight. That was incredibly straightforward. And now we're starting to see a small gap open up between these two. Now, I've seen these kind of small gaps open up and then they shrink back down a few laps later. Sometimes only a few corners later. But it does seem indicative that between these two, I think Stokey may be having a faster lap time, but just the inability for him to get alongside means he's just compromising his laps. Not by massive amounts, but by small amounts here and there in the various corners. Fun Games can just kind of focus on running his own race. He will be dealing with Forza's inverse aero wash a bit. Meanwhile, farther back, VER Razor has caught Maybe Racing. These are two entries I honestly had higher expectations for throughout the event, and while Scored Buffalo in that BMW was unsurprisingly able to charge up to the front and win a stint without issue, Scored's teammates have just not had any performance whatsoever. And for the VER Dodge entry, this was an entry I thought that would be racking up easy podiums run after run, but the drivers who have been running this car in the stints that we've been following this have just been incredibly snake-bitten, constantly involved in accidents, constantly involved in incidents, frequently not even of their own making. We saw here, going through a mini carousel a few laps ago, two other drivers had a really, really silly, stupid move right on this little section of the circuit here, and Razor got caught up, and Maybe Racing has gone off, and Maybe has gone off circuit, and that will let Razor go by. So yeah, even though Maybe is spending more time in clean air, when he is caught by people, they're just destroying him and throttling him even when they have more worn tires than him. So it's very obvious that Maybe is not able to come to grips with the car. And this has been kind of the repeated thing within the E-Racing United and IFEA group. Maybe Racing, multi-time champion within E-Racing United, but every time he steps out of that little window, every time he steps out of that grouping, the performance just is never, ever there. Side by side, who's going to brake earlier? And it will be Maybe. Again, the Dodge Viper naturally can brake a lot later because it does not have, under normal circumstances at least, does not have nearly as high of a top end. I mean, it does have a really ridiculously high top end, but it takes so bloody long to get there. You have to specially gear the car. It's really not worth it. And Doo is going ahead and making his second stop now. We'll see the vast majority of the GT field make their second stop, likely at the end of this lap. But at the front is still Fun Games and HYR Stokey Joe. And the bottom category, Roken GTR has opened up a gigantic gap on your current second place, Sluds, who in this BMW is having one of his best runs, probably one of the best runs for the BMW in the bottom category thus far. And then you're followed by Steve running in third, Optin Vic in fourth in the IARA car, and then Dom is board here in that LMP entry, followed by CBL BX Con, who is way farther back, just trying to keep Zephyr behind him. So as our leaders in the top category fire it off, the Nordschleife again. Ooh, wow, Stokey really cutting the circuit there with his tires, trying to do everything he can to get up under that BMW. So if the BMW just leaves the door open, you can try and get alongside. He tried. You could see the BMW was slightly offline, and Stokey was full power trying to get alongside. And he's got the torque, but he just doesn't have the horsepower really to get there. The way this Dodge is set up is really does not have that great acceleration or the great speed. It's got good torque. It's great getting out of the corners, but it doesn't have a lot of power for that torque to deliver. So Fun Games continues to lead. These two have been in this prolonged stalking battle for a long period of time, although honestly, it does not look like a stalking battle to me. It looks like Stokey is doing literally everything he can, trying to put pressure on Fun Games, get Fun Games to make a mistake. But unlike in the nighttime here, under the bright rays of the sun, Fun Games is absolutely on top of it. We're going to go ahead and take a Twitch-mandated ad break, and when we come back, we should see the vast majority of the field begin to make their second pit stop of the race. We'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Oh, this is the closest we've seen to a legitimate move. This Fun Game's just going to squeeze Stokey offline here. Wouldn't be the first time he's done it. No, he's just going to use his sheer power to stay ahead. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. For a brief moment while we were away, Stokey and Fun Games got alongside each other in the Kessel Straight, but sheer power advantage in the BMW let him pull back ahead, and we're back to this scenario that we've been in most of the time, where Stokey can stalk Fun Games and get right on the rear bumper, but just cannot seem to get alongside, let alone make an actual move stick. We are seeing drivers in the bottom category going ahead and making their second stops now, a little bit earlier than normal, but they are coming to their second stops now. But we are anticipating to see the vast majority of our GT field pitting here this time by. Maybe Racing will probably be the exception. Maybe he was likely going to go another lap because he did 4 laps on his very first stint on the fuel and tires. So he'll likely knock out a 3rd lap here and try to run a bunch of laps in clean air. But considering just he has not had any pace, he could frankly run the same strategy as everyone else, the more optimum strategy, and his sheer lack of pace means that he would likely just be able to hold on in clean air the entire time. I honestly feel that just running the normal strategy for him would legitimately turn out better. Alright, coming on to the back straightaway once again. This is Stokey Joe's best chance. This is one of the very few straightaways in the entire game that is long enough to give him a shot at a driver ahead using the draft. He's got the draft on Fun Games. What can he do? Right on board with Stokey as you watch this gap visibly close. Fun Games trying to swerve back and forth, trying to break the draft here. While he doesn't break the draft, it does cause Stokey to have to bleed off some of his speed, so it takes him a lot longer to get up to his top speed. Is he going to go for the move around the outside? He pulls up. No, he is not going to commit to it. He knows that Fun Games will just run him off because he's been run off there before by the BMW. Closes in right underneath that number 69 machine, and here they come into the pits this time. Both of them lick the outside wall. Of course, he's going to pit shortly afterwards as well. So maybe Racing, we believe, is going to stay out. So he'll probably move up to about 3rd or 4th on track off the back of staying out and everyone else pitting. I'm also interested to see where drivers such as Amaryllis and Razor end up in relation to Doo-Doo-Doo-Doo, who have already made their 2nd stop. Stokey Joe and Fun Games already out of pit lane. BMW firing down. He'll get up to 4th position. That is Corsi. He has passed as well. You can see the top 2 ahead, but he's going to have to deal with Corsi coming up from behind. Corsi will be a little bit frustrated at this because, well, I don't think it will happen. Corsi may believe that he has a chance to run down the top 2, and having to deal with traffic in the form of maybe Racing will be on very worn-out tires. Is just going to be frustration for the Dodge Viper that does not have the power to make nice, easy overtakes, even against a slower car. Interesting thing is, after this round of pit stops, Stokey has gotten ahead of Fun Games. This is the first time we've actually seen the Dodge be ahead of the BMW for a while here. I'm curious if now Stokey will have the ability to just light up the tires and use sheer lap times to pull away. But the big thing is, though, that it's taken him basically half of the stint to get by Fun Games. So it's not like he is poised to close a massive amount in distance. Every bit helps, but he is not poised to close by a massive amount. And there's only 2 more stints after this one, mind you. Coming down to the jump once again. Nothing crazy here, nothing this time. All right, coming on to one of the straights. Again, Fun Games will have a superior top end. He should be able to catch the Dodge in a straight line without too much issue here. Is not able to get close enough to get into the draft, though, it seems. He does close the gap down. You can visibly see how much closer he got, but not close enough to catch the draft off of that Viper. Meanwhile, for third, it is still maybe racing, but Corsi is running him down. This will likely end up being the kind of thing that will derail Corsi's shot at a top 2 result. It's just going to take Corsi so long to try and get by maybe here. If you're maybe racing, you have to wonder if there was no mandatory stops, would he have the ability to make this race in just 2 stops? Nah, I don't think so. Well, if the lap here is about 8.5 minutes, 8.5 and 8.5 is 17. 17 and 8.5 is 25.5, which is pretty close. If a pit stop is about 8, if you go about 8.5 minutes here, oh, something's happened to Stokey. Stokey's went off, and Fun Games is back ahead. Stokey has had a self-inflicted mistake, and now all of a sudden, Fun Games is back on top, and by a massive margin as well. Is there damage to Stokey's car? No damage. He will be able to keep going, but he's back in a frustrating position. Now he is way off of Fun Games. Doesn't even have the draft off of that lead BMW. But BMW Dodge are your fights for first and third, but the fight for first may have just completely deteriorated and gone away now. Through the Kessel straight once again. Not a true straightaway, but straight enough nonetheless. This will be the interesting bit, because Corsi's going to get a fantastic amount of draft, so he's got great top speed, he's got better tires. I would argue he's faster than maybe. How long is he willing to stay tucked up behind this BMW here? Can he think of somewhere really close to go and start for a big move? Because the big thing is that Corsi can see Stokey Joe ahead. If he can clear maybe here. Oh, and Corsi's into the wall. Hard into the outside wall. I don't think he'll lose too much time, though. Especially because maybe immediately blows the following corner. And yeah, there is no damage to that Dodge. There is a nice flush hit as they fire off now into the carousel once again. And frustration for Corsi because he can see Stokey there, and he's muscling his way by. The line was open. Maybe he left the line open, and Corsi muscles his way by. So Corsi puts himself back in the third position. And now the question is, can he avoid mistakes and keep his head down, try to run down HYR Stokey Joe? Maybe he's not done with Corsi yet, but maybe will have to pit by the end of this lap, so he's not going to be a factor for this Viper for much longer here. But I think Stokey has gotten everything back together. Yep. Stokey is now running back down on Fun Games and is starting to leave Corsi behind. I think Corsi was held up by that BMW just long enough that Stokey was able to regather his senses and is now focused back on the circuit. But again, we do not know if Stokey will have what it takes to run down Fun Games, and even if he does, he's only been able to get by him on 2 separate occasions. Catching is one thing, passing is another. And a car that is designed great for lap times and for catching cars are usually not the cars that are well designed for overtaking. Corsi runs in third. Fourth place is still maybe racing here, but he will be pitting this time by Les Destructor. Has closed in a small amount on Corsi, I feel, but Corsi has had a legitimate higher pace, so I think as long as Corsi isn't held up by any more traffic, I don't think Destructor has a chance to really do anything else. That gap between the top 2 is big enough that Stokey Joe has no draft on Fun Games whatsoever, so the BMW will absolutely open it up a bit. Maybe does have a draft on Corsi, I don't think he's going to go for a move here because he knows he has to pit right away. There's no sense in wasting time trying to go for a big, ridiculous dive bomb here at the end of the straight. Now, it'll be interesting to see how far down the order maybe falls after making this stop. Despite the accident earlier, EVO has actually been slowly closing back in to at least 9th place. Then you have 8th place, who is VER Razor, who's also running all by himself. Then you have ZR Amaryllis in 7th. Hilfiger runs in 6th. Unlike some of the earlier stints, the bottom of the GT category has not fallen off. Our GT field is a lot more tightly packed together despite the incidents and accidents we've had. Now, I do think part of that is because the drivers at the head are not just ridiculously fast, blowing everyone's socks off. So it makes it look like the field's a lot closer because the leaders aren't getting as far away. But again, the accidents and incidents that drivers have been having farther down the order have not been enough to completely derail everything. So after pit stops, maybe ends up in 8th, a little bit behind VER Razor. But again, even when maybe has had a tire advantage, he has not had the pace to do anything with it. Meanwhile, in the bottom category, wrong car, Roken GTR continues to open the gap bigger and bigger. Like I said, it will take a disconnect or a catastrophic accident to steal, at least amongst his B-Lobby rivals, the victory away overall. But EMC Steve and Sluds keep going back and forth. BMW on Toyota action for 2nd place in this field. OPT and Vic hangs out in 4th place a little bit farther back. If these two got into an accident, he would be in the perfect position to capitalize. But I do think one thing that helps is that these cars are so much slower. It's a lot harder to have a big catastrophic accident in these cars. I'm not saying it can't happen. We have seen it occur. But it's a lot harder to have a big catastrophic accident because you just don't get to those really high speeds to cause those big catastrophic incidents. Damon's board is way back here running in 5th position in the field, and I hate to say it, but all feels like it's basically lost for the LMP attempt to win, at least out of the bottom category here in the B-Lobby stint. The car has shown some speed, but the drivers have not been consistent with it. They keep sliding off and having mistakes and falling down the grid. And then farther back, CBL, BX Con in 16th and 17th is Zephyr, who has gradually been losing touch with Khan, and both of them have lost touch with the rest of their field. Stokey has run the gap between himself and Fun Games back down. And Corsi is running them both down. We might see a 3-way fight, but again, the big problem is that the Dodge Vipers do not have the straight line speed to make a nice, easy overtake on Fun Games. Their lap times are being made up in the corners primarily, under braking into the corners, which makes it very, very hard to pass. These cars are just a little bit too heavy and too wide to be able to make a pass just off the back of sheer out-braking and cornering. It's not like you can just catch up to that BMW and then nimble it around the outside of a corner and get by him. The GTs are just too heavy for that, and the Vipers especially are a little bit too wide to make that work. Okay, to be 100% fair, Aramis, maybe I should have specified, it's not all the drivers in that LMP Toyota Supra that has been having a bad time. but it has been a recurring, consistent problem, stint after stint, that drivers just seem to be constantly overdriving that Supra. That setup that your team is running on that car seems to be incredibly on edge, and the drivers keep falling over the edge and spending way too much time trying to gather it back up for some reason. I do think that car probably has something in it to fight with Rokin, but it might just be a little bit too over the edge, too twitchy to really put together the consistent lap times you need over 100 minutes to keep that fight alive. Wait. Stint 10 has been relatively calm thus far, though, although we did have that big something I imagine will surely get looked at, the controversy between Do and I believe the other driver was Destructor, but Razor got involved in it as well. And I imagine there will still be penalties looked at post-racer. What is Stokey doing hanging out the rear end there? Like he's listening to Eminem Shake That. Stokey is still running the gap down between himself and Fun Games. You can definitely say that the Dodge Vipers have better lap times, but overtaking has been just about impossible now that we are in the daytime. And with that pink BMW being the car that is already first in overall distance amongst all of our A lobby entrants, right? Not A lobby, sorry, of all of our B lobby entrants. Stokey needs something to go wrong badly for Fun Games so he can get to the lead. And then, when Stokey gets to the lead, because he has gotten to the lead several times, he needs to not make a mistake and throw the lead away. But it feels like it's one of those cases that's easier said than done. Steve has had an incident and has fallen behind Optin Vic here. So Steve had been fine for second, and he's off. He slides off there, going into turns 1 and 2. No damage. It looks like he just pushed that car a little bit too far. But that will pretty much solidify Slud's position in second. Oh, and Fun Games has gone around. Fun Games has had a complete spin around, completely backwards. He finally gets going, but he has now fallen to third. That's it. That's what Stokey did. That's what Corsi needed. And it was in the last corner before the straightaway. Here comes Destructor with a fantastic line, and Destructor is going to fire by. So Destructor now moves up into third. And Dodges take 1-2 all over again. And now the thing is that Stokey Joe leads, but he has to make sure that Corsi can't catch him. And both these drivers need to make sure they don't have an accident here. So we're going to go ahead and knock out a Twitch-mandated ad break. And when we come back, we'll likely see everyone begin to prepare for their third and final stop of the day. Don't go away. We'll be back momentarily here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. About 30 minutes left here in the event. And the interesting thing is that Corsi seems to be the fastest car on track right now. And everyone in the top 4 have had at least one spin or off-track excursion or something like that. Right now, Stokey Joe is your leader, but Corsi is legitimately running him down. But Stokey Joe finally leads. It is Dodge 1-2. And the thing is that Dodge versus another car, the Dodge struggles to make an overtake. But Dodge on Dodge, these two could go back and forth many times because the draft will constantly work in favor of the driver behind. So this is very much not over. We could be looking at another stint where we have 3 different leaders throughout the event. Now, mind you, these leaders here are coming up with a bit of traffic. They've already navigated around Zephyr, who is last in the bottom category. And that is, I believe, CBL BX Con, who's a little bit farther up the road that they're going to have to deal with shortly here. Yep, that is BX Con. As we're on board with Corsi, you can see how much this gap has closed down. Big thing is, though, Corsi may be held up by bottom category traffic going into the funnel, which would be one of the worst places to be held up. Oh, but Stokey was held up by quite a bit there as well. If Corsi can dispose of this Supra without too much issue, he cannot. Finally he gets by, but all the time he had gained is suddenly lost. Still, Stokey is ahead, and it does look like Corsi has a superior lap time right now. And it'll be a long time before they catch traffic again. And if some of those drivers ahead elect to pit coming to the line this time at the end of this lap, they may not factor in to this duo's fight. So it looks like it may be another case of HYR and HYR action here. But it is not over. If these drivers have a big spin, it could bring Les Destructor up into the fray as Les Destructor disposes of traffic without too much issue. Fun Games has just not been able to keep up. He's honestly lost ground to Les Destructor as well. So once again, this pink BMW, which was the leader coming in, is poised to lose a lot of time to the HYR Dodges all over again. In the P1R SEC Championship, which was an endurance series where they ran a 6-hour enduro once a month every month, or almost every month, 10 events over 11 months, the Dodge Vipers had a gigantic advantage in the latter half of the season. Because in racing circumstances, they did not lose as much of their peak lap time. And they naturally did not burn up their tires, so they could afford to go a lap or two farther into a run. Even if they were slower in peak lap time compared to other cars, they could just use the draft off of faster cars to artificially better their lap times. And then, because they weren't burning up their tires and they weren't really in a position to fight, they weren't losing as much in peak lap time. That's not been the case today, though. That kind of extreme tire conservation has not been what has given the Dodge Viper its strength. The HYR team has really just figured out a way to maximize the cornering capabilities of the car. Now, they don't really have great straight line speed, but usually lap times are made up in the corners. Yes, you need some good power to be able to not bleed away massive chunks of time like what we're seeing with the Supras have against the Hyundai Elantra in the bottom category. But these Vipers have been so bloody good in the corners, and the other drivers have just been so slightly more mistake prone, that keeps putting these Dodges up near the front. And now it is dodge-on-dodge action at the head of the field with 25 minutes left. Again, we are anticipating to see Stokey Joe and Corsi pitting this time by. Any of the cars in the bomb category that elect to pit this time by will probably be dealt with almost right away by this duo, but any that stay out might not be caught, and they may pit later and may not have an impact on this duo. Oh, and Corsi off into the dirt. Big off into the dirt. And all that time he had been gathering back slips away. Now, Stokey's not gone and Corsi's not damaged. But it just goes to show that Corsi may be faster, but he seems to be slightly more mistake-prone than Stokey has been. He also is going to be outside of the draft range of Stokey as they come onto the back straightaway, which will be a massive benefit for Stokey Joe here. Roken did not pit this time. Sluds has elected not to pit, but Optin Vic will come into the pits this time by. Steve will come out. Dom is bored, is going to come in. Dom is bored, is making a late decision to come in. And then obviously BX Con and Zephyr are not going to have an impact on our leaders in the top category here, as they are both guaranteed to come in this time. Yep, here they come. As Destructor will make it in without issue. Here comes Fun Games, and then Hilfiger, who is way farther back in that Mustang. But finally, the Mustang has gained a decent result in. He will bring it in as well. We anticipate that maybe racing is going to go a little bit longer. We think that Doo-Doo-Doo will probably pit this time to sync his strategy up with everyone else. Excuse me. Maybe it's actually not lost VER Razor on this last 3-lap run, so that's an interesting little scenario. So there could be a possibility that this E-Racing United car, maybe Racing, can find something to try and take the fight to Razor here. E-Racing versus VER. And maybe we'll move up to 5th position, a little bit behind Fun Games. Clear of Hilfiger for the moment, and he should be in clean-ish air. The gap between himself and Hilfiger is going to be quite large for a while. So now, for Stokey Joe and Corsi, they're going to have to deal with some traffic in the form of Dom is bored and Optin Vic. Now, they might be able to dispose of Dom before they get into Nordschleife proper, but Optin Vic could be the kind of the wild card that really decides how this fight goes. We saw it when they were trying to get by CBL BX Con earlier. It just did not go well for them. It looks like Zephyr has come back into the pits. Oh, no, he was just making his final stop now. Never mind. Yeah, Stokey Joe's going to catch Dom just before getting to Nordschleife proper. The Supra slides wide. So that worked out well enough for Stokey. What about Corsi? How long will it take for Corsi to clear the Supra? No time at all. Dom says, look, you're in a different fight. I'm not going to give you problems. I'll give you the inside lane. So I would argue that Dom didn't really have too big of an impact between these two. And if he did, it was a very slight impact against Stokey. Next driver they'll be catching will be Optin Vic. That'll take a little bit longer, though. Up to the jump again. I don't think Corsi is close enough to get the draft off of Stokey. Not this time. Corsi just licks the grass there a bit, and that will slow his momentum through that corner. But again, Corsi has been faster, but a lot more mistake prone. As now they're coming up on Optin Vic, and it's going to be in some of the worst possible corners they have to deal with a slower car. Looks like Stokey's going to be held up much more than Corsi will be by the looks of it. No, maybe not. They might catch him in a straight line here. They will. They'll catch him in a straight. Stokey clears Optin Vic without too much issue. Corsi is actually going to be the one who has to hope that he can dive into the corner nice and quickly. Got to keep it on track, Corsi. And he will be able to keep it on track. So there's still a legitimate fight for a lead here with about 20 minutes left in Stint 10. For those of you who want more GT racing, we will be covering Stint 11 shortly after Stint 10 is over. And Corsi is having a big issue through the funnel here. But we will be covering Stint 11 after Stint 10 is over. The gap between these two continue to fluctuate, but Corsi has just been so mistake prone. He's not been able to get right on Stokey's rear bumper and really start pressuring him. He needs to keep everything together for a bit longer if he wants a serious shot at Stokey here. Fun Games has caught traffic, is being held up by traffic just a bit. There is an outside possibility that we could see maybe end up flying with Fun Games here. I doubt it. Ooh, maybe puts the bumper to the Supra saying, get out of my bloody way. I don't think our leaders in GT are going to catch Rokin. And I think the possibility of catching Sluds is low, but they are definitely going to catch Steve before the end of this lap. Bit of a slide in the dirt there by Stokey, but he is starting to pull away from Corsi once again here. Has he damaged his engine? No, the engine's not damaged. But it does seem like the momentum keeps going back and forth between the two. That red dot in the corner there on the zoomed in mini map, that is Steve. Where they catch him is going to be so critically important. Because if they catch him on the straights, it's not really going to have too much of an impact on anything. If they catch him in the mini carousel, it's going to be big. And it looks like Stokey is going to catch him just a little bit before the mini carousel. Is he going to be held up? No, he's going to clear him without too much issue that time. Corsi, on the other hoof, is going to have to deal with him after the mini carousel. He'll have to deal with him on the big run, the big sweeping corner, this near 270-degree corner, before the back straightaway. So that'll be another lap where Corsi just does not get any advantage from draft whatsoever. Almost gets squeezed off there by the Supra. Again, the Supra, no downforce. The amount of suspension tuning is limited, so there's just not a lot you can do in that car to get out of the way of faster traffic. So the gap between Stokey and Corsi stays large. And when they come to the line, it will be about 15 minutes left in the event. So they'll get one more full lap and then part of a lap afterwards. And we're going to see Roken, who's already in the pits right now, and Sluz is going to jump into the pit lane as well. I do not think that Stokey Joe is going to have to worry about Roken. I think Roken is going to be well behind Stokey, and more than likely will end up being behind Corsi as well. So it will be nice, clean, green traffic for our two Viper leaders who are running 1-2 at Nurburgring Nordschleife. We're going to go ahead and take one more ad break. When we come back, we'll stay here on track to the end of Stint 10 here. Don't go away. We'll be back in about 90 seconds. Huh. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back here to Nurburgring Nordschleife. We are currently looking at this little interesting battle for 7th and 8th. After making a stop, Maybe Racing has actually leapfrogged ahead of VER Razor. Again, Maybe is going to have slightly fresher tires, so potentially this strategy that Maybe is on, maybe it is working out. Every time we start one of these stints out, I'm saying I don't have confidence in this alternate strategy that Maybe has been committing to, but it might be paying some small dividends. It's very obvious that Maybe does not have great pace. He has been an 8th or 9th place car for most of these stints, but right now he is fighting for 7th with VER Razor. Will have a slight tire advantage and potentially the advantage of having less fuel in the car as well. So it's pretty interesting. However, this duo is still trying to navigate traffic. That could have a outsized impact on how the rest of this plays out. Trying to go side by side through there is not a highly advisable move. The Razor has held up just as much, if not more. Farther up the grid, 4th place Fun Games concede. Les Destructor ahead. Fun Games wants to try and run that down just so fewer drivers are closing in on his team's overall advantage. The interesting thing has been our top two. Stokey Joe has led for several laps. Corsi has been faster, but every time he starts to close the gap down, he slides off, makes a mistake, catches traffic in a bad area, and just cannot seem to catch Stokey. He is running out of time. They're only going to come onto that big back straightaway one more time. Corsi has to catch Stokey before they come onto that big back straightaway. Otherwise, I don't think there's any way that Corsi has a serious shot at nipping Stokey Joe for the stint victory here. Looks like ZR Amaryllis and Hilfiger have... Oh, Hilfiger's gone off in that same bloody quarter, and this car is destroyed. And he was having a top 5 run before this accident, but now with Hilfiger, this was only about 40% of the way through the lap. And now Hilfiger's car is destroyed, and the H-Bar Mustang might fall back as far as 9th, maybe even 10th. frustration. Once again, we look at the fight between Corsi and Stokie Joe and wonder, does Corsi have enough speed and time to take the fight to Stokie? There's a potential battle for third that is just a little bit closer, and Hilfiger seems to have left. He says, screw this, I'm not willing to stick around to the end. Well, that does solidify Amaryllis' spot in 5th right now, as he has a decent margin ahead of Maybe. This also guarantees that EDO and Doo are going to finish at least top 9 each. About 9.5 minutes left. And Fun Games has gone into the dirt. He is way into the dirt. And any shot he had of catching third, it's probably gone with that. Maybe is actually pulling a small gap on VER Razor right now. EDO's pulled a small gap on Doo. Morales has stabilized his position. I feel like the only real battle up for debate here is Corsi on if he can catch Stokie before they get to the straight or not. In the Battle'em category, Roken, absolutely fantastically flying here. Still has to deal with a little bit of traffic, I think. But as long as that traffic doesn't knock him off circuit and damage the car or anything, he should be fine. Slud seems to have locked up 2nd. Steve is currently in 3rd. Optin Vic is 4th. Dom is bored is a very distant 5th. And then BX Khan is 6th and Zephyr is 7th and last in that bottoms category. Corsi is closer to Stokie this time, but still not close enough to have the draft. So that might be all she wrote in this fight for the lead here. With no draft, Corsi has to fight so much harder through the rest of the circuit to close in. And even if he catches, it's going to be hard to get alongside. Not impossible. The fact that it is a pair of dogs going at each other means that the driver behind naturally has the advantage in a fight because of the draft. We'll go ahead, and as they go by the camera in turn 1, we'll go ahead and time the gap between Stokie Joe and Corsi here. (1001), 1002. So about 2.5 seconds between our top 2 right now, with 7 minutes left. That goes to show you how far back our 3rd place and 4th place drivers are. Well, they are still a ways away, so can't really use that yet. But the gap does seem to be closing down. But again, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. And Corsi's going to have only about 5 minutes to try and make this overtake stick, if he can make it happen. Could we see an overtake in the waning seconds of Stint 10 for the Stint win? One way or another, both these drivers are going to continue to chew into the gap that Fun Games and that BMW team had over them. With just 2 stints left, you have to wonder, was it enough? I think the gap's now down to about 2 seconds flat between the two of them. With 5 minutes left, I don't know. I don't think Corsi is... The thing is that once Corsi gets within about 7/10, he'll get the draft off of Stokey, and that will help him a bit. Big slide out of the rear of that car. That's going to bleed off a lot of very critical time that he needs. Still, he is running that gap down. And for the rest of the HYR team, they're probably watching this and just crossing their fingers, saying that whatever happens, please do not let these guys wreck each other. Don't let either of them wreck. Another 1-2 finish for the HYR folks in a Nurburgring, in a TORA stint, would be a fantastic reputation boost. They've already been having a fantastic run today. They just need to see their drivers not throw us away, get into a silly fight. Less than 4 minutes now. As they go through the funnel section. This has been the corners where both these drivers have made a little bit, well, I shouldn't say a little bit, but this is where both these drivers have made quite a few mistakes throughout the day. I think it's about 1.8 seconds now. Less than 200 seconds left. Again, I don't think Corsi is close enough. They're going to come up onto the, I believe it's the Kimmel Straight. They're coming up onto a straight here. But again, I don't think Corsi is close enough to get the draft. And with him not having the draft, he's not really in a position to close for the next 30 seconds or so. Dom has had another incident farther back, apparently. Dom has fallen now to second to last. Oh, the car is destroyed! No, it's not destroyed. He's out of fuel! It's worse! He's out of gas! And that was second place in the bottom split! And the LMP Toyota is out of gas! With over 2 minutes left! And that will derail any shot that they had. Alright, we turn our focus back to the lead fight here. 120 seconds left as the two Vipers fire it off into the carousel. It's not close anymore. Oh, and Corsi goes off. That will probably end it. That will be it. That will probably be what decides this stint in Stokey Joe's favor. Corsi, just a little bit too mistake prone, could not even get onto Stokey Joe to make the fight happen. Because now with 90 seconds left, and the big thing is Dom's board is going to be stuck on track here, and so far away from Rokin. Rokin is going to be almost half a lap ahead of the second place driver. Honestly, this might put that LMP entry in position. They may fall to third or fourth out of everyone here in the B lobby. 60 seconds left. Big slide by Corsi, and he's way off into the dirt. Corsi's just kind of driving out of control. It's just kind of throwing it away now. But still, these two will close significantly on Fun Games, who is a distant fourth right now. We look at Roken, his biggest rival, completely out of gas with over 2 minutes left in the final stint. We had a nice little boon to BX Con and Zephyr as well, as they both will pick up free positions. 19 seconds left, now 18. And another stint win is going to go to HYR Stokey Joe, just before he gets onto the straightaway for... As the clock ticks down, time's up, over, plow! Hard into the wall. But that will do it, and Stokey Joe brings home another stint victory. Second place will go to Corsi. Third place will go to Les Destructor. Fourth will be Fun Games, who's not too far behind Destructor. Fifth will go to ZR Amaryllis. Sixth place will go to Maybe Racing, who ended up actually making the strategy work and sniping a position over VER Razor. Eighth place will be EDO 4351. Ninth place and last of the running GTs will be Doo-Doo. In the bottom category, Roken walks off with another gigantic win over the rest of his competition. There is no way this entry loses this event now, I imagine. Then you have Sluds, who will be second, the best result in the BMW camp yet in the bottom category. Steve will be the highest Supra in third. Fourth place will be Optin Vic. Fifth place will be CBL BX Con. Sixth will be Zephyr. And last, after running out of fuel with about 160 seconds left in the run, will be Dom is Bored. And that will wrap us up here. We are going to go ahead and take a Twitch mandated ad break. When we come back, hopefully we'll get the ability to do some post-stint interviews from some of our top finishers in the two categories. We'll be back momentarily here. So it looks like they've resolved whatever problem that had that forced him to go into ghost mode, but now he is way ahead of the rest of the field, so that's going to make things a little bit more frustrating here. Typically, once we see your leader in the top category move again, that means they're just about done. They'll move forward to usually the next mile marker and then stop there. And again, if we do not get any interviews, well, so be it. We will be back anyway to cover Stint 11 here at Nurburgring Nordschleife. But I believe they're still trying to capture and gather final distances right now.
Minutes left.
Apparently, they're still calculating distances right now.
Five minutes left.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we actually are going to get some sort of interview here before we close this off. Coming to the party right now is EMC Steve. Steve, go ahead and include your audio in the Xbox party if you can. Steve, can you hear me? I do not know if Steve can hear me or not. Steve might not be able to hear me. All right, for some reason we can't seem to get anything from Steve. We are not able to hear him for whatever reason. Not sure what the problem is. We might be able to reach out to one other person here, and that would be Sluds. Sluds, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you include your audio in the Xbox party?
Yes, I did.
All right, Sluds, fantastic drive out there. Brought that car home to the best result by a BMW thus far today. What do you have to say about that fantastic run out there?
Well, yeah, since qualifying wasn't so good in the whole sum, we always end up in the last spot somehow, and I always have to fight through all the traffic that is ahead of me, so it's kind of a pain in the ass. I always get stuck behind somebody. It costs really so much time, and I cannot get a catch up on Ruken, which is quite annoying. Yeah, but our team is so I'm actually the strongest driver of the team, so it was kind of a thing to be expected, right?
Who is going to be taking over the car in Stint 11?
Stint 11, it should be C480.
All right, we'll be looking forward to seeing him, an old friend of the channel.
Oh, he is, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's actually the one who asked me to join. But it's his team, right?
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Thanks, mate, for jumping in and talking with us here.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm
All right.
doing the last stint, so let's see what if I can even get a better result there. We see.
Hey, there's always room to move up, mate. Good luck out there.
Yeah, thanks. Have a nice day.
All right. Coming in at party right now is HYR Stokey Joe. Stokey, I'll keep this nice and short because I think you might be doing the next stint as well. But fantastic drive out there, pulling off a win and another 1-2 result for 1 second. Steve, can you hear me now? No, he still can't. I can't hear him. Maybe he can hear me, but I can't hear him. Anyways, sorry about that. Stokey, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right, go ahead. Make sure your audio is included. A fantastic drive, a long, prolonged battle between you and a BMW, and you finally pull it off in the end. Another stint win for HYR. 1-2 finish to be exact. What do you have to say about that run out there today?
We were pretty much like in the zone in that race. We were trying to keep up as much as we can, stay behind the BMW. I know that was it Fun Games made a mistake before the dusting of her. So when he made a mistake, I was like, ugh, quite scary. So I was like trying to run the outside and just try not to get any damage. Hopefully, no damage. Just went straight on, and there you go. Rest is history.
Yeah. Were you? Did you feel like you were under any serious threat from Corsi in those final few laps?
Not really. He's my teammate in this race, so we were trying to keep ourselves calm, not trying to make any mistakes, just not trying to bother each other. Just keep ourselves calm. That's the most important thing. That's what we've been doing, pretty much. He knows what he's doing.
All right, two more stints left. Who's going to be taking over the car in stints 11 and 12?
Stint 11, it will be Storm, and then stint 12 will be Henrique.
All right, we'll be keeping an eye on that. Storm has shown to be very impressive and fast in these cars as well. So stint 11 will get you very interesting. Thanks once again for jumping in and talking with us. And we look forward to seeing what you guys can do in these last 4 hours or so of racing here.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. Thank you for having me.
Yep. And with that in mind, that will wrap up our broadcast here for Stint 10, but we'll be back very shortly here to start Stint 11's broadcast. Don't go away. Until next time, I've been your host for today's broadcast, Insane Leader 13. Thank you very much for joining us. Farewell and goodbye, everyone.